We start our discussion. Today we'll be covering Bhagavad Gita chapter 1.2 to 1.11. In the previous session, we discussed how Dhritarashtra was inquiring from Sanjaya, and also we discussed the character analysis of different analysis of different characters of Bhagavad Gita. What are different characters of Bhagavad Gita? In the beginning, there is Dhritarashtra who is asking Sanjaya questions, and after that, there is Arjuna and Krishna, and there is, like, before going to Arjuna and Krishna, there is Duryodhana. Basically, the Bhagavad Gita starts with two materialistic persons, Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra. And we have discussed what is the mentality of Duryodhana and what is the mentality of Dhritarashtra. So now we'll be going in depth into it. So verse number 2 says, no, Sanjay vacha društva tu pandavanikam yuram Duryodhanastada acharyam upasangamya racha vajanam apravet. So Sanjay said, no, like after Dhritarashtra asked the question what my sons and Pandu sons are doing after reaching the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Sanjay said, seeing the array of the Pandavas troops, Duryodhana approached the his teacher Drona, and spoke the words. So now Drona was the teacher of both Pandavas and Kauravas, and Drona was very much inaffectionate towards the Arjuna. Arjuna was a desired disciple of Dronacharya. So Drona, there is a life story of Dronacharya, how he came, like he got this knowledge about military arts from Parashram, and from Parashram he got all these astras, shastras, and Dhanur Vidya, and then he was appointed as a teacher for Pandavas and Kauravas, and among all the Pandavas and Kauravas, Arjuna was his favorite disciple. And after that, Duryodhana approached his teacher and says, "O teacher, see the great army of the sons of Pandu arranged for the battle for your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada." So basically, as for the life of Dronacharya, the thing is, he's a friend of Drupada. He's a friend of King Drupada. King Drupada and Dronacharya were childhood friends when they are in Gurukul. So what happens after their graduation? Drupada goes to his kingdom and he becomes a king, and Dronacharya comes to his family, but he was in a very poverty-stricken condition. So even though he has great wealth of knowledge, but he was not able to make his living. So one time Dronacharya happens to go to Drupada to ask for some help. Basically, he has a son, Ashwadhama, and he was not able to even feed to his son. Like he was not able to give milk to his son. And when Dronacharya goes, he goes to Drupada, and Drupada was in his assembly along with his royal associates. And Dronacharya was remembering his childhood pastimes, how Drupada promised him that anytime you need any help, please come and see me. And Dronacharya was kind of very much had a feeling of that Drupada will welcome me and Drupada will treat me as a friend, like that. He goes, but seeing Dronacharya's condition with lot of poverty, and because he didn't have nice clothes, he was not well fed. So, and Drupada feels ashamed to tell him that Dronacharya was his friend. So when Dronacharya meets Drupada in his assembly, he says, "No, oh poor Brahmana, if you want some charity, why don't you just ask for charity? Why are you claiming that I'm your friend?" Like that he says, and it hurts Dronacharya very much. And he didn't ask for any charity. He just leaves from there, and he says to Drupada that, "No, I thought you are my friend. You promised me, that's why I came. Otherwise, I would not have come to you. No, I'm not here to ask for any charity. So I'm going. He said he goes off. So on his way back, he happens to meet no, Pandavas and Kauravas, and he displays his um, martial skills, no, about Dhanurvidya, and he was appointed as a teacher of he was appointed as a teacher of the Pandavas and Kauravas. And after their education is done, the Dronacharya asked all the students, as a Guru Dakshina, can you just defeat the Drupada and bring him to me? So all the disciples, all the Kauravas tries first, and they fail. And Arjuna, he was very powerful, so he goes single-handedly along with other Pandavas and defeats Drupada and brings back him to the bring back as a prisoner to Dronacharya. So, and Dronacharya says that now you are defeated my disciple, so your entire kingdom belongs to me, but I will give half of your kingdom for your living, and half of I will take half. So that's how he taught a lesson to Drupada. And this Drupada was a Kshatriya. Now, Kshatriya mentality is if somebody insults him, they will never forget, they will seek revenge. So this Drupada, he actually performed, he understood that he cannot be able to do anything to Dronacharya because he is so powerful now, because he has powerful disciples and he is associated with the Kuru dynasty. So what he does, he actually performs an yajna for seeking a son to be able to kill Dronacharya. So that time Drupada gets Drishtadyumna and also Draupadi in the fire. So as per destiny, this son of Drupada will be able to kill Dronacharya. So that's why, and this Drishtadyumna was made when the Kurukshetra war is about to begin. The Pandavas made Drishtadyumna as the general, as their general. No, general means he will take care of all the army, and he will dictate how army should fight and what positions, what arrangement has to be made, and everything. He is take care of everything. So, and Drishtadyumna was the general on the other side, and Bhishma Dev was general on the Kaurava side. So that's why Duryodhana sees that Drishtadyumna, how Drishtadyumna expertly arranged the army, and he comes to Dronacharya because he knows that there is the enmity between Dronacharya and Drishtadyumna. So that's why he came to Dronacharya, and then he speaks all these words. Okay, and he says, Duryodhana was an expert diplomat. No? He knows how to use what words and whom to speak what thing. No? So that's why he tries to instigate anger of Dronacharya by mentioning about Drupada, because Drupada was born for his Drishtadyumna was born to kill Dronacharya, and he says. After he also says about the Pandavas army, and then he says about he addresses the brave person, the warriors that are like great warriors that are present on his side, and the great warriors present on other side, and then now you can, if I will reading all these things, you will get a list of warriors. Okay. And also he mentions how he later mentions, "Oh, best among Brahmanas, I understand who is on our side. The commanders of my army, I will list them," and he completely lists all of them. Okay. So materialistic person, even he doesn't care whom he is speaking to. He might be speaking to a respectable person, he might be speaking to his friend, he might be speaking to any, even the demigods or devatas also. Sometimes the demons like Ravana or Hiranyakashipu, they perform great austerities. And great exalted personalities like Brahma and Shiva appeared. They speak in a very materialistic way. Give me that, give me this only. But they don't acknowledge their position. They are like, so this Duryodhana is speaking to his teacher, spiritual master, and but still he is boasting about his prowess only. Okay, and now if we see his mentality, he has like no, he actually he's the person who is responsible for Pandavas to live in exile for 13 years. Like the gambling match happened, and Pandavas were exiled, and Pandavas are put into difficulty before they were sent to forest. Uh, Duryodhana tried to insult the Pandavas by insulting Draupadi. Like that is the grievous insults. If you see the like in Mahabharata, there is instances where Karna is portrayed as the greatest warrior and greatest personality. So the greatness of any person is seen by the way they react to these provoking situations. What are provoking situations? The situations which will instigate anger in us, which are most distressful for us. So based on how we respond to those situations, our character is analyzed. Our character can be analyzed. So if somebody insults you, if you react in a provoking or anger, if somebody provokes you, then if you react in an angry mood or vengeful mood, means that you are still like there is some that thing that needs to be addressed in our personality. So even though Pandavas are put to so many difficulties, but they are full of forgiveness, they are full peaceful, and they never violated the principles of truthfulness and dharma like that. And Duryodhana is trying to use everybody for his selfish desires. If it had given a little bit of kingdom for the Pandavas, this entire war could have been avoided. But he is not willing to listen to that. And for his revenge, he insulted the Pandavas and he caused suffering for the Pandavas. But still, he was not satisfied. And his false ego was so high that he was trying to rule all over the kingdom. And there are two types of egos, like real ego and false ego. What is real ego? Real ego means identifying which is truth and identifying ourselves with the truth. Just like what is truth? Truth means how everything belongs to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and how we are his subordinates. And false ego means like I'm the doer. I can do whatever I want, thinking that everything depends on me. Whatever I accomplish is only based on my power. That is false ego, aham. So an extended false ego means like something which belongs to me should also be great, because I took birth in his country. That's why that country is great. Because I'm following so and so religion, that's why this religion is great. So that is extended false ego. Means we are giving like if you see some materialists, they try to accumulate more and more wealth. So but in their lifetime, even they spend like in India, especially the politicians, the way they accumulate 1,000 crores, 10,000 crores, like that. Even if he spends lavishly also, he will not be able to spend like 1 or 2 crores nicely, like if he eat nicely and comforts his body and everything like that. He cannot use much of it, but he earns so much that even 10 or 20 of his generations will sit and eat. So means his life is centered around his enjoyment. After his enjoyment is done, he is earning for the enjoyment of his relatives who are related to me, because these persons are related to me, that they should also enjoy, they should also take part in this materialistic wealth. So that is the false ego, and that is the extended ego. So finding faults with our well-wishers, some well-wishers will be there. Like in the case of Duryodhana, he has well-wishers like Bhishma, he has the well-wishers like Drona, and even Yudhishthir Maharaj is also one of his well-wishers. He tried to send all the Krishna as the his peace messenger, only for the benefit of Duryodhana, so that he can live peacefully. He can have. No, we don't have to go to the war, because he knows that everybody from the Pandava side were very confident that they will be able to vanquish the Kauravas with Krishna on their side. But still, they want for the good of the other party, because they are their own relatives, right? For the good of other party, they actually try to make peace with them. But Duryodhana's mentality was he tries to exploit everybody. So exploiting and agitating mentality. So then he says, therefore, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, the winner of wars, Ashwadhama, Vikarna, and Bhurishrava. He lists the warriors on his side. And like Duryodhana was very much, Duryodhana developed so much of this temperament or the false ego based due to the association of bad people, like Shakuni, Karna, and Dushasana, like that. So it is said that the type of people we associate with has a great role in molding our character. If we associate with saintly person, you will also become saintly. If you associate with materialistic person or egoistic persons, we will also tries to be on that level. So we should be very, very careful in choosing our association. So that matters a lot actually. Like if we associate with persons who are like self-centered or like who are like depressive, like people then depressive means just out of mood or doing nothing. It need not to be. Some people who are not self-satisfied, they try to see the satisfaction in other material things by dominating others, by showing off to others. So those kind of people also are depressive in nature. If we associate it with that kind of people, and we will also develop the tendency, oh, he's showing that he is buying new things, I should also buy new things. He's showing off, I should also show off. So that kind of inferiority complex will develop in us. But on the other hand, the devotees are, even though they live in a simple life, but with higher thinking, higher values, they never heed to these inferior tendencies. So that's why association matters a lot. And when we associate with our friends, if we can spiritualize our association also. When we meet our friends and our relatives, when we put Krishna in the center, then that relation, that friendship will get spiritualized. Because, like for example, today the meeting is there, Friday evening meeting. You can consider that all of them as your spiritual friends, because Krishna is in the center of our discussion. Now, we are not talking about some cinemas or some politics or some situation in the society. We are speaking about spiritual topics. We are speaking about Krishna. So then our association becomes spiritualized. So that association has a greater role in our character development. But when it comes to the personality like Duryodhana, he is basically mostly affected by the association of materialist, other materialists like Dushasana and others. And he then he says, no, I'm not reciting the shloka, I'm just, because there are a lot to cover. So there are so many other brave men who have given their lives for my sake, skillful in fighting with various missiles and weapons to close combat. Okay, and he is counting on his friends and relatives only for his selfish desires. Okay, but he doesn't count his real friend. Who is the real friend? Krishna says in Bhagavata, he is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. He is the friend of all. So God is the friend of all the living entities. So basically, even the Rakshasas, even the demonic people also, he is the well-wisher of even them as well. No? So basically, like when a child makes any mistake, a mother or father will punish the child. No? Like if it is in India, they will beat up. But if it is in America, they cannot beat. But they will try to punish in some other ways, by not giving the material facilities or taking out the whatever the cutting down pocket money, something like that. So in those conditions, mother and father are acting against the interest of the child, but it is only for the sake of development of the child. So that if they don't act like that, then the child will spoil and the child will do much greater damage to itself. So that's why, in the same way, Krishna also, when he is treating with demons or demonic people, he tries to minimize their demonic tendency by either cutting down their material prosperities, or even by fighting them or even killing them also, because they can get better birth in their next life. So like that. So we should count on our real friends. Our real friends are our spiritual friends, who gives us Krishna to us, or who makes us our Krishna, or less more and more Krishna conscious. And we'll discuss how becoming Krishna conscious will actually solve all the problems of our life. So, but if you simply focused on just a give and take policy, like you scratch my back and I will scratch your back, only on the material level, then we cannot make, we'll only lead our life in a most animalistic way, which is like very basic life. So so then he says, Duryodhana compares both the armies, and he says our army protected by Bhishma is strength of our army protected by Bhishma is immeasurable, but the army protected by Bhima is the protector of the army of other side, is limited. So that is the materialistic calculation. A materialistic person, he always sees his life by how much accumulated he has, what degree he has, what is his educational qualification, what is material qualification, how much of wealth he has, how much of property he has, like that, how many relatives he has. All these are materialistic calculations. Means there is like very little others can do in our life. The greatest help or damage can we have to do ourselves. So like if you take if any help, they can only give some relief or some they can only help on the physical or mental level or social level to some extent, but only person who can do great help for ourselves is we ourselves, because unless we take up to the nice habits, unless we take up to nice practices, unless we take up nice association, we will not be able to help ourselves very much. So we means like there our mind plays a major role. Like in Sanskrit, the word Atma refers to the spirit soul, and another meaning of Atma is the mind, and another meaning of Atma is body. Okay, so in Sanskrit, one word will have many different meanings based on which context that word is used. So sometimes Atma is used as a spirit soul, sometimes Atma is used as a mind, sometimes Atma is used as a body. So we ourselves has a greater ability to do good or bad for ourselves. We can either degrade ourselves or we can either elevate ourselves based on how we are utilizing, how we are using our free will, how we are using our time and ability or power. So Duryodhana also is comparing on the more materialistic way. Now he is comparing the armies, and then he is saying that we have this many authorities and they have only that many authorities. Our army is more powerful, their army is less powerful. But he is not acknowledging the presence of Krishna there. He doesn't even count Krishna as a warrior. He doesn't even count the presence of Krishna that side. He only says, okay, these are the greatest warriors on our side, and those are the greatest warriors on their side. We have 11 Akshognis of army, and they only have 7 Akshognis army. So we are more powerful, and we are going to win the war. That's how he calculates. So materialist also calculates the same way. So I have so much bank balance. I have so much of properties, land, and buildings, and I have so many relatives, so many rich friends, and he doesn't even care, or he doesn't even consider the God, if Krishna is he's there on his side or not. Is there any spiritual value in his life or not? He doesn't even care about it. He just lead life on his based on centered around all these material things only. He spends entire of his life only trying to accumulate more and more, or achieving more and more of material wealth. So that is the problem. So the material what is wrong with that kind of living? See, everything that we accumulate in our life is going to end at the point of death. Like if you are like if you are a billionaire or trillionaire also, at the time of death you will not be able to take even $1 with you. Whatever you have accumulated is going to end with your life. So, and what is the problem? Because what is the problem with this materialistic way of living? Is like the materialistic way of living, they will only centered around this materialistic accumulation, but they will miss the real aim of the human form of life, and they will miss the highest value, most valuable thing. So because whatever the spiritual practice we perform, or whatever the spiritual progress we make in this life, is going to get carry forward to different next life eternally. Means if you make 10% of spiritual progress in this life, and in the next life you'll start from 11th%. Whatever spiritual progress you make in this life will never be lost. Even if you take millions and trillions of lives also, that spiritual bank balance will remain unchanged, or it doesn't diminish. So the materialistic calculation, they actually the problem is they only have the highest value for the objects lie in the material well-being and in the furtherance of material progress. Okay, so this business is going to earn so much, or if I make friendship with this person, is going to get more materialistic wealth. So that's how he calculates. So he's materialistic. His entire life is centered around the amount of stuff he accumulate, the name, money, and power, so that he'll have better control over others, and he will have better advantage over other person, and can show off his material wealth to others, and he actually lives in an illusory circle that people will love him, people will respect him from the core of his heart, from their heart, when he has more and more accumulated wealth, and he thinks that he seeks happiness in that state. So there is no problem with the materialistic person, but only thing is he doesn't get succeed, because like searching for happiness is the basic tendency of every living being, even if it is a spiritualist, even if it's a materialist, even if it is an animal also. Search for happiness is the basic tendency of all the living entities. So, but he is searching for the happiness, that is the right thing, but he is searching in a wrong place. He is searching happiness in material things only. Yes, material things also gives us certain kind of physical and mental comforts, but we should not limit our happiness to only that level. We should increase the range. We should increase our the horizon of our happiness seeking. We should be able to seek happiness in doing good to others. We should seek happiness in performing spiritual activities. We should seek happiness in conveying the gratefulness. So that kind of development should happen within us. That is growing internally. So what is the blunder of a materialistic person is, happiness found in he thinks that happiness is found in the material things only, wealth accumulation, so-called name and fame, and he thinking like that. He has been striving all his life, but he is never satisfied. We gave the example of Ravana and Hiranyakashipu, right? Ravana, he has thousands of very beautiful women in his palace, but still he was hankering to get Sita, one woman. And for that one woman, like all his well-wishers came and told him, no, give up this Sita, otherwise you will be dead, because Ram is a very powerful person. And Vibhishan, his brother Vibhishan, his mother, his wife, everybody tried to tell him, no, just give up this. You have so many women. Why are you attached so much this to this one Sita? But he was not able to give up because of his conditioning. That's why he was killed along all his family members. So Hiranyakashipu conquered 3 worlds. Hiranyakashipu conquered the heavenly planets. Hiranyakashipu conquered all the lower planetary systems, and Hiranyakashipu conquered the entire Bhumandala also. And everybody, even the demigods, are fearful of him. And but there is one person who is not willing to listen to him. That is his son Prahlad. And this Prahlad is not going to conquer his kingdom or anything like that. He is just doing Hari Bhajan. He is just glorifying Krishna, and which Hiranyakashipu doesn't like. So he tried to kill Prahlad so many times, and he tried to harass Prahlad. He harassed Prahlad so much that it angered Krishna, and Krishna appeared as Narsingadev and killed him. So this kind of materialistic persons will never be satisfied. Because if you see some, I personally saw in my relatives, they said, okay, I will accumulate so much wealth, and I'll construct one home, and then I will be happy. And after 10 or 20 years, he has accumulated, I should say, 20 times or 30 times greater than what his initial calculation was. But still, he was working so hard, and he's spending all his time in accumulating wealth, and he's still thinking that right now, like he was thinking, look, I will earn only like 1 crore of rupees or something like that, and he earned like 10 crores. Still, he's running after the money only. So, like, that's a practical experience for me also. So there is no limit to this materialistic desires, and because they will be like alluring you more and more. The more you go in depth into materialistic accumulation, the more and more they allure you. So we should try to keep our life simple. We should never try to show off for the sake of others. Our life should not be based on what others think about us. Our life should be based on what we ourselves feel about our life. So they will be chasing after tomorrow. I want to be happy tomorrow, but they will forget this. Today is passing by. I should be happy today also. They think that I'll be after becoming old, I'll become spiritual. But why not you become spiritual now only? So that kind of person, they abandon the connection with Krishna. They actually they don't think that relationship with Krishna is something relevant to them. So, and they want Krishna's wealth, because everything belongs to Krishna, right? Everything material, all the material and spiritual belongs to the Krishna. Ishavashyam, because Krishna is the proprietor of everything. If you think practically, before we took birth, everything was here as it is, and after we live, after our death also, everything will go as it is. So our role in this world is coming with nothing and going with nothing. So, but in the middle, we claim that, oh, that is my property. I have conquered so much. I have accumulated so much, and it is going to leave us in few years. So it is Krishna's property which is kept under your control for some time. That is the nature of this material world. And we in our life, we want that materialist in a materialist will think, I want Krishna's property, but I don't want Krishna in my life. That is the greatest blunder of a materialistic person. So if he can become, if he is after Krishna, and the Krishna's properties will follow him. Krishna's properties will be around, will follow him, because Krishna is the well-wisher of everybody. Krishna, like just like a parent always thinks for the good of the child, in the same way Krishna always tries to give good for what is best for his children, of all the living entities. So Krishna says, live according to my direction, then you will be able to be happy in this material world, and also after death you will be able to go on the higher levels. Instead of, you will be promoted to higher and higher lives. But the problem with the materialist is he just spends of his life entirely only for the accumulation of material things. And he will have many problems. He'll have psychological problems, he'll have social problems, and he is responsible for ecological problems. But psychological problems is intellectual disability. He will not be able to see what is permanent and what is temporary, what is long lasting, what is short lived. He will just, irrespective of what is going through, he will just focus on accumulating more and more. And he will not be able to reveal his art in confidentiality. He don't have true friends. He'll always see everybody in a business terms only. What am I going to get from this person? What am I going to get from this person? Like that. He will not have a true friend with whom he can reveal his heart. So, and he will not be able to focus. Even if he takes up some spirituality also, he will not be able to focus. He will develop some manias, means excessive enthusiasm or desire or obsessions, means like something like a smoking or excessive alcohol consumption, and also accumulating more and more, or like that kind of mania. And depression, because of his because the material sense gratification is like fire, and object of sense gratification like wealth, object of sense gratification like wealth, opposite sex, or what can I say, then properties and name, fame, are like they are the objects of sense gratification, are like fuel, like like petrol. So you will never be able to extinguish the fire of material desire by pouring more and more petrol of objects of sense gratification. The more you pour on that, the more intensively that it burns. The flame goes more and more higher, means the fire becomes more and more intense. So only way to control the material hankering is to restrain it to some level, and be grateful to whatever you have got, and engaging yourself in Krishna service. That is the only way one can be able to have satisfaction. Otherwise, like there is no limit to the materialistic sense gratification. The more we engage ourselves in sense gratification, the more our senses demand. And there is you will never find a situation where your senses will be very grateful to you. Okay, you have been gratifying us for so many years. Now we are very grateful and we are very satisfied. Our senses will never say that. After enjoying thousands of sense objects, and still our senses will demand, I need more and more and more. So, and this will lead to anxiety disorders. This, due to this long-lasting stress and long-lasting depression, it will lead to many disorders. That's why if you see some people, they will shake, they'll have problem, they don't have any peace of mind, they will be always thinking, they will be in depression, like that. And this kind of lifestyle will also lead to social problems. The social problem, due to our personal life is very miserable, it will lead to, that effects will be seen all around us. The negative consequences for the large number of people around the materialistic person. Okay, he will even deny the basic human rights for the others. Just like the persons who are dependent on him, his family, or sometimes even like his competitors. They become so cruel that they even deny the basic human rights also, and they don't they are not, they are only centered, they are self-centered, and they don't the economic they don't consider about economic or well-being or education of others. Okay, and this problem, they start on the individual level, they affect the family first, and then they affect the society in which the person is living, and then they affect the entire region also, and sometimes nations, and sometimes global also. Sometimes if you see like a personality like Hitler, everything started with the unpersonal level, and he was not able to get proper direction on the personal level. This entire thing went on to the level of global thing. So that everybody in the world suffered due to one person's mistake. So basically, if you are able to identify these problems, in our children, in our relatives children, or in our relatives or friends, and if you are able to address them when they are in a basic levels, when they are in a tender level, then the greater consequences can be withheld. And higher than social problems is ecological problems. Is not only affecting the humans but also affects the environment, because every living being depends on the ecology. For all the living beings to reside properly, there should be ecological balance. So if our minds are pure, if our mind body is not properly engaged in for the as a for the well-being of others, then we'll definitely will pollute the air, pollute the water, and pollute the earth, which is the basis for all the living creatures. So we are not only will be affecting our fellow human being, but also the other living beings also. Because this, why these all things problems came up, because only of thinking that everything is for my enjoyment only. So in order to fix these problems, what is the solution for all these problems is Krishna consciousness is a solution for all the problems. What is Krishna consciousness? Thinking that I am not the property of this material wealth, I am only a caretaker. This wealth is given to me only for certain period of time. So after some time, it is going off from me. But original proprietor of this wealth is God Himself, and being very grateful. Practice gratitude. It's the counterbalance to materialism. So when we are grateful to other living beings, when we are grateful to our well-wishers, when we are grateful to the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, then because Krishna says every living being is part and parcel, means every living being is a son or daughter or of Krishna himself. So we try to respect each and every person and each and every being, even the animals and trees also. It is like when a boy goes to Gurukul in the Vedic system, first lesson that I start to the Gurukul children is never try to cut a living tree. Like the Gurukul boys are sent to the forest to collect wood. So, and the teacher says, you should never touch the tree which is green or which is living. You should only collect the branches or the wood only from the dried out tree. Means they are so conscious of the well-being of even the trees also, what to speak of other animals and other human beings. And by being Krishna conscious and by seeing Krishna's presence in every living being, we become very mindful. We become very conscious. I should not be taking more than what is required. I should not be curbing others' property, or I should not be somebody who is like who is imposing, who is taking away the freedom of other living entities. So, and that kind of consciousness develops when we are Krishna conscious, when we seek everything as Krishna's property. And we should consume better information. That is spiritual education. Means unless we are constantly educating ourselves spiritually, unless we are in the association of spiritualistic persons, then we will waste our life. There is a good chance of our degradation. So the nature of this material world is, if you are not progressing in a constructive manner, you will automatically progress in a destructive manner. If you are not able to progress constructively, you will automatically progress in destructively. So there is nothing in this material world which is changeless. The change is always there in this material world. So means there is either promoting or demotion, either progress or degradation. So if you don't do with enthusiasm, with determination, if you don't strive on betterment of your life regularly, then you will automatically get degraded. You will automatically get more and more spoiled. So we should invest. We should regularly allot our specific amount of time for the spiritual education. Unless we keep hearing repeatedly, then only these subject matters will enter into the core of our heart. Then only there is a change in our character. Otherwise, if you live without any spiritual association, if you don't take the spiritual guidance regularly, then there is a good chance that you will be degraded, and you didn't even know when you got degraded. So basically, if you see the our in our previous generations, they used to live with very peaceful mind. They used to go to work. They used to work in the agriculture fields, and at the end of the day, they used to come home and they used to have harikatha. All the villagers or the town people, they used to gather at one place and they used to hear to harikatha, or they used to do some kirtan in the temple. So they used to have perfect balanced life, peace of mind, full of peace of mind, and everybody used to be very honest and very value centered life. The family relationship, the human values are nicely maintained, and everybody is taken care very nicely, right from the infant baby to even the grown up old person, right from labor to the highest owner. Everybody is nicely taken care. Everybody is concerned about other person. The human values are given highest importance. The principles are given highest importance. So we have to give the more value to the experiences, or more importance to experiences and values than stuff that we accumulate or possessions. So what is the motto of the Vedic culture? Putting principles before pleasure. So now, what is the way of life in the modern age? Is pleasure first. You enjoy first, then you can see later. You spend away your money using credit card, then you can earn later and you can pay off later. That is not the principle of Vedic culture. That is not the Vedic culture says that you have to give the principles, values first. Putting the principles before the pleasure. That is the way of life in the Vedic culture. So if you live in a responsible, God-centered or Krishna conscious life, all the problems on our life will automatically get solved, and we will live perfect balanced life, and we realize the purpose of human form of life and utilize it to the fullest extent, and we can make nice progress either materially or spiritually. Yeah, material wealth means it's not like only accumulation of material wealth. How much bank balance you have, how much possessions you have, how many buildings, how many lands of acres, something. It's not only the material possessions. Material well-being means how much peacefulness you have, how many friends are there, how many real friends, how many which money cannot buy. How much time you are able to give yourself, how much time you are able to give for your family, how much time you are able to give for your spiritual life. So these are all the real wealth, not only accumulation of material wealth and material education. That is definitely there. That is definitely there, but we should not limit our life only to that level, which is all the animals do. Okay, all the animals, they are centered around on eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. If you lead our life only based on those basic necessities, then there is no difference between animal and the human being. So the putting principles before the pleasures is the way that human beings lead their life. So that is the end of today's session. If you have any questions or any comments, you can discuss them. I hope you are able to follow everybody. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
Any questions or any comments?
Prabhu,
Yes.
I am Narsim Sharma.
Yes.
I have a question.
Please.
Please don't take me wrong with this kind of question.
Actually, I will clarify one thing. So never hesitate that, oh, this question is silly question, or what I will think, or what others will think. No question is a silly question. No question is but try to ask as much as relevant questions. but don't feel that, don't have that feeling. No, feel like, very friendly and very, because
Okay.
if you don't open up nicely, then it will not be able to help yourself or help others also. Okay, so never feel like that. No question is no. Okay, please go ahead, Prabhu. Sorry.
Okay. So we know that Arjuna is a good person. He has lots of values and lots of things which Arjuna has. But Duryodhana is very materialistic and he is considered to be a wrong person.
Mm.
Now, why did Krishna teach Bhagavad Gita to, or tell Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna? Instead, he could have told it to Duryodhana and make him a better person, right?
Mm.
Why did he teach to Arjuna?
Mm. Is that your
I
question?
mean, that's my question, sir.
Okay, see, the thing is, like, first of all, like, Krishna is taking the position of a guru now, like a teacher. So it, like a disciple will be able to receive the knowledge only when he is submissive, only when he is convinced that the person the knowledge that I'm going to receive from this teacher is going to help me. It is for my benefit. But Duryodhana, like, definitely Krishna tried in many ways, tried to educate Duryodhana. Even Bhishma tried to educate Duryodhana. Even Drona tried to educate Duryodhana. Even his father Dhritarashtra tried to educate Duryodhana, and his mother Gandhari tried to educate Duryodhana. Even Krishna, when he came as a messenger, he tried to educate Duryodhana. See, you are going to war or developing animosity with your nephews is not beneficial for you. You try to educate him also, but he was not listening. You will see how even Krishna also doesn't instruct Arjuna unless Arjuna comes to the point of surrender. That's why surrendering unto the spiritual master is the first criteria, first basic thing what one needs to have before acquiring any spiritual knowledge. So Krishna is ready to give this knowledge to Duryodhana, but Duryodhana is not going to heed. Duryodhana is not going to listen. Duryodhana is not going to take it at all. So you got the answer, Prabhu? We can only
Yes.
give. We can only tell to somebody. No, see, we can invite many people to come to spiritual discussion, and see, this spiritual discussion is going to give benefit you a lot in your day-to-day life, in your job, in your career, in your family life, in your life in general. Take up to spirituality. But how many people do you think can come and listen to this knowledge? So if a person like us are not going to give time to have acquire spiritual knowledge, and what to speak of a person like Duryodhana, who is like, who is born in a princely family, who is right from his childhood he was thinking that he is the god of everybody. That kind of person will never be able to give, or will be able to listen to the spiritual topics.
Yes, Prabhu. But I understood what you told, and I'm also happy for that. But there is only one point over here. We always consider, or everywhere we are telling that Krishna is the greatest guru and he is great. Does it? Why did Krishna doesn't have sufficient power or good knowledge to teach to Duryodhana? I mean, Krishna is great, right? If Krishna is great, he should be able to teach.
No.
Sorry.
So have you followed this session from the beginning?
I'm sorry, I was a little bit, I was 20 minutes late.
What time did you join today's class?
8:20.
8:20.
8:20.
8:20. So if you, maybe you might be missing that point. So you try to join on time, because I addressed that question before only, because Krishna was well-wisher of even demoniac people also. Even Krishna was the well-wisher of even Duryodhana also. So, but there is a specific way of teaching different things to different persons. See, like for a human being, if you say, like a word, he will listen, he will understand, and he will apply that knowledge. But for an animal, it has to be trained. It has to be beaten up, and it has to be nicely trained to get something from an animal. For a person like a demoniac person, it has to be that that same message has to be given in different way. Like if there is some terrorist or a rowdy cheater, if somebody goes to that person and says, okay, why are you giving hardship to others? Now if you do bad thing to others, then you, as for law of karma, you're going to get a lot of bad karma and you have to suffer in future. If you say like that, that person is not going to listen at all, because his mind is so much attached. So Krishna, as a Jagat Guru, he knows how to teach proper lesson to everybody. So first he tried to give correct him by saying the good words, like there are different ways. Sama
Samadana Danda Beda.
Samadana
Dama Danda Veda.
Danda Beda, yeah. Samadana Danda Beda. Okay. Sama means just giving the proper advice. Samadana means just giving the some gift also. Krishna gave that also. See, if you make treaty with Pandavas, Pandavas are going to give all the kingdom to you, and you just give them 5 villages, and they will be happy. And that is Dana. Danda means he tried to scare them. He tried to split the Duryodhana from the Karna, because Duryodhana has great confidence in Karna. So he tried to do that also, Beda also. And finally comes the Danda. Danda means going to the war and giving punishment for what he deserves. So that these are different ways of educating or different ways of correcting the people. So Krishna, being the Acharya, he knows what to implement for whom. You got your point?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions? Okay, we'll end it here. So
Sir, one more question then.
Yes.
If no, I was just waiting because maybe many others may have a question, so I thought maybe I can wait.
Yeah.
I have one more question then.
Yes.
It is every time we're talking about Krishna consciousness, Krishna every time. Can I be satisfied with only Krishna in life, or can I be satisfied with somebody else also in this life?
So basically, the thing is, you can be satisfied with only Krishna in the life. So that's what sannyasis does, like sadhus. Now the saintly persons, they go to forest, they only meditate on Krishna, they only pray Krishna, and they only lead a very simple life, eating fruits and roots, and they will be very full of like their life will be very fulfilling, and they will be full of pleasure and full of happiness. But if you have everything but not Krishna, you will not be happy. If you have nothing but only Krishna, you'll be happy. So, but you can have, based on your material or based on your spiritual advancement or based on your material conveniences, you can have material wealth to some extent, to whatever you wanted, you desired, and you can add Krishna to your life. So there are different levels. A saintly person, a sannyasi, he will only have Krishna. He just renounces all the material possessions. Even if he is a king of the planet also, he just renounces the entire kingdom and goes to forest and just be in a meditation on Krishna. Just do hear about Krishna, just do chant the holy name of Krishna, and then he will be fully happy and content. But a materialistic person, even if you have all over the world within him, within his hand, but still he will not be happy because he doesn't have Krishna. So that's why there are 9 processes of devotional service: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Swaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. If you get engaged in any of these processes or all of these processes nicely, then you will have Krishna in your life. And if you have Krishna in your life, you will be satisfied with very little. But if you don't have Krishna in your life, even if you have the entire material possession in your hand, you will not be satisfied. Okay. You got the answer, right, Prabhu?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. To some extent, Prabhu. Yeah. No problem.
Why some extent? Why you're not fully convinced?
Okay. I'm very sorry that this is kind of a devil's advocate of kind of thing that it's becoming. Yeah. Having Krishna, I accept that. I'm pretty much okay. Does this mean that nobody else, other than people having Krishna in their life, are happy really? I'm very sorry.
no,
This is kind of a devil's advocate, which
no,
I'm
actually, see, the
saying.
thing is, they think that they are happy, but they don't know what is real happiness is. That's what scripture says. Scripture means like that is given by perfect persons, that are given by sages. Unless you have Krishna in your life, unless you are Krishna conscious, unless you are God conscious, unless you have gratefulness, see, your life might be externally seeming perfect, but there is some deficiency in your life. But you try to add Krishna in your life and see the difference, how much change that it brought in your life. So somebody who is in a who has a nice family and all the nice material wealth, and he has all the necessities of life fully to the fullest extent. But if that person may seem that he is enjoying, may seem that my life is full, my life is complete. But if that person, if he adds Krishna in his life, he will see the difference that he has been missing. We personally had many experiences. Some great CEOs of different multinational companies, when they take up Krishna consciousness, then they personally say that, oh, I think I had everything. Now I wish that I had this knowledge little, few years back, so that the kind of suffering that I went through, I would have not gone through that kind of suffering. So that is their experience. No, it is not like my personal thing. It is stated in the scriptures, and it is personal experience of many great successful people also. If you see many great successful personalities, Alfred Ford, or like he's a multimillionaire. He has like an entire Ford company. Like he's a proprietor of greatest, nice, well established business. I'm just giving one example. There are many number of rich and successful personalities. They took up spirituality and they see the fulfillment in that, fulfillment of their life. Unless you take up the spirituality, such thing that your life might be seeming perfect and complete as of now, but you just add Krishna to your life, add spirituality to your life, and put it practice for few years or few months, then you will see great deal of difference. The type of mood that you have and the type of anxieties that you had, you will see a great difference in your life. So you are thinking that I'm happy, but you are in illusion. That is called illusion. That's called Maya. Okay. We can have this discussion later on also. I'll show you how many examples I can give you. Like if you can meet me personally, I'll show you many examples how the what kind of changes the spirituality has brought in many people, right from
Prabhuji?
students' life to successful people also. Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, can I tell my experience after starting this class? What did I feel?
Yeah, sure, Mataji.
So when I started the class, I had so many God in my mind, because from childhood you learn from the parents that this is the priority, this is the priority. But as I understood the Gita and the knowledge, first I didn't call Krishna as a Krishna. I just said that he's just giving me the knowledge. And as I'm progressing now, naturally I'm connecting with him. So that's my experience. So I just wanted to share.
Yeah, as you progress with Krishna consciousness, you will reach to a level that Krishna is there at every step of your life. Now Krishna says, like I run for my devotees. So before you face any problem, Krishna is already there for you. Like that kind of experiences you will personally feel. And once you get that kind of realizations in your life, and you will never leave Krishna, you will be fully in perfect bondage with Krishna. So you'll feel Krishna consciousness everywhere. That's the experience of many devotees actually. See, they are like right now I'm in a temple. Like basically, you see my qualification. I did my master's in electrical engineering. I worked in America for 4 years. And what made me just give up my job and join here? I had no problem. I don't have any personal problems. I don't have any material problems. So, but I see how much important it is, how much. So I felt like other things become irrelevant to me. Then I took this decision. So it doesn't mean that everybody should take up this lifestyle. No. This is my personal experience. Mata mentioned her personal experience. So even the greatest successful personalities also, even the CEOs, even the doctors, even the engineers. So they are so famous doctors, so much successful professionals, even the simple housewives, even the children. If they take up Krishna consciousness, they see great deal of difference in their life, but they have to take up very sincerely, very honestly. And Krishna consciousness life, especially the Bhagavad Gita, is the book of question and answers. If you have any questions, you approach a right person and try to get clarification from them and go forward from there. So that's how you become your life more and more spiritualized and more fruitful. And you will be successful in all the aspects. You will be successful in social life, you will be successful in material wealth, material life, you will be successful in spiritual life, and you will be successful in your relationship with your other family members, friends, and relatives, like that. So yeah, the spiritual life will give fulfillment for your lives. Okay. Anybody have any more questions? Otherwise, we'll end it here. So feel free, don't feel that any irrelevant or any, and don't feel that somebody will think something about, what are the questions that you're asking. It might be helpful for them also. And like read Bhagavad Gita, and if you have any questions, note down and we can have discussion. So I'm trying to put our classes only for 40 minutes and giving the time for 20 minutes for the discussion. Okay. So you can come up with your questions and we can have a nice discussion. Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna, Prabhuji.